All right, guys, Basil Wolf from Grayson Hobby. We got FPV news for the week of, what week is this? May.
I don't even know.
It's May, sometime in May. If the cat's been out of the bag, so Jumper has announced 3 versions of the T18 coming out in the end of May 2020.
Yep.
You got the T18 Lite.
Yes.
The T18. And now, just recently announced the T18 Pro.
And this is not a T18, just so you know.
That's a T16, yes. So what's the biggest difference? There's actually a chart we had made up below, but the biggest difference between the T18 and T16 is the... Alright guys, like always, if this video is value to you, be sure to give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and be sure to check out the ever-growing accessories for the Jumper radio, the switches, the gimbals, the pads, the receivers, and the antennas, and everything else at GraysonHobby.com/jumper has everything you need.
So all of our Jumper equipment, parts and accessories shipped right here from our Atlanta, Georgia location. If you guys are in the Atlanta area, come on by, check it out. We have jumpers in stock as much as we can.
Yep. Oh, we forgot the freaking biggest thing.
What?
No ribbon cables.
Oh yeah.
So T16 is they have now a 5-in-1 module.
Oh, the 5-in-1 module adds a 900 megahertz. Does it work with Crossfire? No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah. Okay.
What?
The new feature of the new features of the T18 is going to be the 5-in-1 module. Now, what is a 5-in-1 module?
It adds 900 megahertz.
950 megahertz. Great. What if you live in a country? That's going to be for the T18 and the T18 Pro. What if you live in a country you cannot import 915 megahertz transmitters?
You're screwed.
You are, but Jumper thought ahead. They made the T18 Lite, which will have the original 4-in-1. What is the 900? What's the 915 megahertz?
It's like R9 and Crossfire.
R9 and Crossfire.
The long range.
Right. So out of the box, this is this still hasn't been released yet, but out of the box, the 915 will work directly with the FreeSky R9 system. So if you have an R9 receiver, in theory, you plug it in, you bind your radio in the 915 megahertz, and you're up and flying. 915 is for those are real long range stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or it goes through trees or bandos or whatever you're flying it. I fly Crossfire, and rumor has it, in theory, the hardware will work with Crossfire. The software is where the whole big voodoo magic happens.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, everything will work with everything, but it hasn't been proven yet, so at this point, I would say that's still a possibility. Yeah. I would not confirm or deny that.
I would not hold your breath for Crossfire working, but the good news is it will work with the R9 system straight out of the box.
Which is what it's intended to be.
Yes. All right, so now that comes us with the T18 Pro.
Well, you also forgot one thing.
What's that?
The base T18 will not have a carbon fiber faceplate.
Oh, that's right, yeah, okay.
And it won't have a touchscreen? Did they confirm that or not?
I don't know about touchscreen.
Okay, so there's a couple features. If you look at the chart below, it's actually basically a few less features on it, as well as the 4-in-1, the neutered transmitter module, essentially.
Right. It almost is like the T18 Lite is going to be essentially the
T16.
T16. That's really what they've gone to do. Oh, we forgot the freaking biggest thing.
What?
No ribbon cables.
Oh yeah, so all of them are not going to have ribbon cables, so they will be soldered plugs connections.
Kind of like the T12s, if you saw that video, we did T12.
Yeah, and are they all going to have the double button?
That probably so.
Yeah, so I'm sure the casing's the same.
Yeah, the case is physically going to be, other than like Will said, is the outside of the front is going to be black of the 18 Lite, and it'll be the carbon fiber hydro dip. It's not really carbon fiber.
No, it's hydro
dipped. So don't get all upset when you don't have a carbon fiber.
Yeah, to lay an actual carbon fiber faceplate, if it was real carbon fiber, this radio would be $1,000.
Okay.
You know, that's I mean, it'd be a couple $100 for a faceplate.
Well, I've seen some cool hydro dips.
Hydro dips are great.
Yes.
I mean, I would rather have a cheaper radio with a hydro dip front than a carbon fiber plate that blocks RF. But
yeah. Okay. All right. Now that brings us to the T18 Pro. This is going to have those new fancy dancy Alps, whatever they are.
The better gimbals.
Gimbals, yes.
Is it the sensor or the bearings?
It's the whole thing. Okay. It's from my understanding, they're not the Hall gimbals. They are some the Alps, RD, whatever. All the information's below. And these are actually the same ones that are using the new Futaba radios.
Okay.
Oh, that very expensive Futaba radio.
So you actually know more on this one than I do, because I'm the kind of person I like having in my hands before even like really passing judgment or anything on it.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what's going to be what from this thing other than looking at the list below.
Yes. So in the last week or so, the specs have changed daily. So I'm sure when you watch this video, I'm sure the specs will be different from what they will be announced next week from what to actually receive. So take it with a grain of salt. The biggest thing you need to worry about is no ribbon cables.
That, and a couple people asked, I know, about the antennas. It will come with a 900 megahertz antenna as well as a 2.4 antenna for those of you asking, like, why would they use a 2.4 antenna for 900 megahertz? No, it's actually going to have two separate antenna spots, I think.
Yeah, no, it'll have an external 915 and I read internal and 2.4.
So like the original 4-in-1 module will now be the 5th 900 megahertz module and with an antenna.
Something like that,
yeah. So we'll see.
We haven't seen it, but the Pro has the new gimbals.
Yeah.
That's basically what we
Better gimbals. All of them will have wired connections instead of ribbon cables for those of you that, you know, did not had issues or didn't care for the ribbon cable design. That'll do away with it.
It does do the internal charging.
Yeah, it has the internal charging still.
USB-C. What else? Do they have any new switches? Double power switches? I don't know what that was about.
I think it's just so you can program it like a little less likely to turn off or turn on, but you know.
So I did see this in our Facebook group. People are asking, hey, I need a new radio. Do I need the Pro? If you're asking that question, the answer is probably not. Those gimbals are going to be, I personally think, someone who's really who's precision flying 3D airplanes or doing really good flying quads. Although I never even own a nice radio besides the jumper.
I mean, I see one of the best flying people I've ever seen fly had a DX6i. I mean, it's just, if you got the skill, you got the skill. Yeah. That's all there is to it at the end of the day.
Is it worth the $30 or whatever it is? Probably so. Do you need it?
And we have asked Jumper if they will eventually, once production comes up the pace, if they'll be able to offer that gimbal separately. We haven't heard an official answer on that.
Yeah, I did ask. So let's say you bought the regular version and you want to upgrade it to the Pro, the gimbals basically.
Like they did in the past from the standard to the Hall sensor. I'm
guessing you could do it. That's just a guess, basically off what they offered in the past. But that will be listed below. We'll actually have a little chat going in the Facebook group. We got a little blog thing going on, people asking questions. So that's where we'll kind of keep everything current. Again, it changes daily, so
yeah, this is still early in the game on this one. I mean, there's a lot going on with what's going on in the world. Has kind of slowed things down on the initial production of these, but they are in production. We will be seeing them soon.
Yeah,
but
what's cool, there's a lot of hardware with these new radios, either the Lite, the regular, and the Pro, that basically has outjumped the software. So basically, the software has
to. There, I saw that.
You have to. The software has to catch up to the hardware finally.
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is the fact that all these changes are being made to where the fact that things are up in the air is great, because that means the manufacturer is listening to customers' input, and they are making changes based off that. So they are improving the overall product for the end user in the T18 to make things either more reliable, easier to work on, more features, something they might have saw from another company. They're like, hey, that's a really nice idea. Let's do it. That's something that's really good. They're not stuck in the past like other manufacturers out there that are producing the same radio for the last 6 years.
You're right.
So that's something in itself, I think, right there.
And I know I've seen on all the forums where people were getting up. So he bought the original T16. Oh no, a new radio is coming out. Well, that's
still work fine.
The original T16 will work with everything you have. But that's just the general nature of technology. You buy version A, and guess what? Version 3 is probably already in the works.
It's like the computer race. I mean, literally, this thing has a computer on the front of it, essentially, at this point. So it's a different game than the old standard analog radios. In that case, to where there's more improvements, software, hardware, etc., being done. Granted, OpenTX is developing super fast and all that as well, but they've changed the hardware on it to adopt to future capabilities.
Yep. And for all those who are complaining, how many of you how many of you who just bought a phone next day just announced a new phone was just released and you're stuck with the old version? So that's kind of the same thing. I mean, you're never going to be caught up with the technology. Whatever, like Will said, if you're the T12 fits for your need and you're flying and you're having a good time, you don't need any of these other things.
One thing I do want to point out, though, you could literally buy the T16 and the T18 Pro and still be cheaper than the DX9.
Yes.
So in correlation with the rest of the competition out there, whether it be Gwapner, Spectrum, Futaba, Hi-Tech, you could literally buy multiple radios and still be cheaper. So you got to keep that in consideration. You're getting awesome features for such little money. I mean, I remember when I started, I bought a Hi-Tech radio that was 4-channel. It had dials on the front of it.
Yeah.
And it was still $169. So I literally paid the same amount of money over 10 years ago. I probably, oh crap, it's like 20 years now. That was one of my first radios, and it was more expensive than this that long ago. So realistically, that radio back in the day was closer to like $300 nowadays.
Yep.
So we are getting such an amazing deal for the price, and that is something. It just speaks for itself.
It's going to change everything, I think.
Yeah.
Going forward, this is the beginning of the end for a lot of companies in terms of radios, I think.
Adapt or fail.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies are going to start adapting. Other companies that have in the past not allowed, they've had closed source stuff. I think you're going to start seeing more open source from them, etc., to kind of follow suit. So I think Jumper is kind of, granted, they started with piggybacking off someone else's idea. I think they are, in a sense, somewhat leading the pack in design and capabilities, price point, etc. When you factor everything in, I think they set the mark.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
Granted, yeah, you can go spend $1,500 on a radio, and it's got better gimbals and better rubber grips and all that.
Or you can buy 10 of those.
It's literally, it depends on what you want. I mean, you can either go buy a fully loaded Accord, or you can go buy a Ferrari. It just depends on what you want and what your pockets, how empty your pockets want to be after buying one.
But at the end of the day, though, this will do everything that the Ferrari does, or the T18 does,
and more, because you can do multiple modulations. You can do Spectrum, FreeSky, Futaba. I don't know. It's my DX9 is not getting any loving.
No,
so anybody wants to buy a DX9?
All right. So to sum it up, we rambled. 3 versions: T18 Lite, T18 Regular, and T18 Pro. No ribbons.
Yeah.
And the Pro has the badass gimbals. That's basically it.
It's essentially they just an adaptation of the T16 into the T18, better gimbals and all that.
Will there be a modification to this? You bet. You hope so. Will there be updates from what we say now to what's going on in the future? Yes.
And I'm gonna love seeing actually the people that take these, tinker with them, add switches to them, add all kinds of modifications to them, like they did with the T16. I think that's the coolest thing, because the radio is easy to work on. The radio is cheap in a sense to where it's not, you're not going to be crying because you drilled a hole through something. Realistically, if you're extreme modding, I don't know.
Or then you just go, then you buy like a $6 back shell.
Yeah, and you can get parts for them, unlike other companies where you have to send the radio in if something fails. So it's just.
So if you got any questions, drop them below. We'll take them all back to Jumper. They definitely would watch this video, or at least read the comments. We rambled. They're not gonna watch the whole thing.
Oh, we did, yeah.
So, anyways, we got the Facebook group that's very active. We got the blog that people are asking some questions, and I'm doing my best to answer them all. And then we got the thing below. Any other place you're gonna answer questions, they probably won't get asked or get answered. So, all right, there it is.